and they decide to drive it away.
Goes it!
Alex Mitchell's back off. Plenty of comings and going, but all that matters here now is can Northampton close it down? Before we know there's more than 5 seconds to go, they take it back in. This is quite remarkable. Northampton are going to the final. It's right up there. The final spot. The best for everybody. They said that Drua last year prepared Twickenham Premiership Twickenham a year ago. Got them ready for this. By the obvious highest of standards domestically, they've had an awful domestic season. And they come this basket. And this feels very similar to Twickenham. No trophy today, but semi-final delight for the Saints. They beat Leicester on their own patch, where they've had it all their own way in the knockouts until today, until they met this lot. And it's absolutely phenomenal for Northampton. This is the Leinster team.
Well. Saints have done it in Ireland. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast. Griff, I'm with Jade, I'm with Vickers. I think there's something wrong with the connection there with the Vickers, with Vickers' connection. But nonetheless, guys, welcome back. Griffin, how's it going?
All good, mate. Just watched the first semi-final of the day as Leon did a job on Racing. I am going to be in the garden later. The missus has announced that she's broken the strimmer. So I've now got to go and try and fix that and then see what else I can do.
Just making sure that you are tending to the garden every week, clearly. Jade, how's it going there?
All good, Scoop. Getting cold in Bloemfontein now, so in the rugby season starting now. So yeah.
And we're supposed to unleash the weatherman.
No.
We are supposed to unleash the weatherman today. We're waiting, Jade.
Free state weather is the free state winters is not nice. Everybody knows it. So yeah. No. It's been good. So. A lot of rugby in South Africa, from schoolboy up all the way up, internationally, with the Champions Cup yesterday and the Super Rugby as well. So there's a lot of rugby to watch and talk about.
Yeah, there's plenty to chat about this week. Some of the other conversations we're supposed to have last week, we'll probably touch on those as well. But Vickers, I see there's some connection issues, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you can hear us. Thumbs up if you can. But I see that you are online. Maybe try shifting around the house to see if you can find a better connection there. But nonetheless, guys, as usual, we will start off with the news making headlines this past week. Bok set to play in Japan. Rumors that's going around in Cape Town. Jade, have you heard anything?
No. I'm just going on what you said, what I'm reading in online and stuff. It looks like it's leaving Cape Town. Makes sense, eh? It makes sense. I mean, you don't want to take second fiddle to Sasha now in the hype of Sasha, so it makes sense. I think it's a perfect move for him now and for his career.
Yeah, I see we've got Vickers back as well. Vickers, how's it going? Oh. Load shedding in Port Elizabeth. All right, moving along. Jasper Visa is set to be on track as well with the injury.
Yes, Jim.
Oh, there you are. We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Sorry, no. I think I might have to.
Yeah, you're breaking a bit. It's not really clear, Vickers. So I think you should just try moving around a bit. Your you're not very audible at this point. And yeah, so Jasper Wiese said to come back from injury and probably make his start against Italy later on next month. I think Italy are here, or in South Africa rather, around June, July for the inbound tour. Japanese leagues, guys, League One clubs are targeting South African schoolboys to kind of lure them to go and play over there. So it seems like not only the French top 14 sides are doing this, looks like the Japanese League One guys are also doing the same thing. You want to jump in there, Hugh?
Yeah, just on that, I interviewed a guy who is a rugby journalist in Japan the other day, and he was telling me that there are serious proposals going on in Japan now to limit and restrict the number of foreigners that they're bringing over there because of how basically, and there's no nice way of putting it, that the Japanese league and the Japanese national team doesn't necessarily always look that Japanese. And people aren't happy about that over in Japan. So they may be targeting schoolboys now, but that could rapidly change if the new proposals, as reported, are brought through.
No, fair enough. Understandable. They need to start developing a few of their own talent at this point down over there in Japan. Marcel Coutier still has high hopes of making the Springboks. There's been a lot of chatter in the past couple of weeks since the Blue Bulls have shown good form. A lot of chatter about Marcel Coutier making it into the Springbok lineup. I don't know whose place he will take because it seems like everyone and anyone who should be in the Bok setup has already been called up into those what are those things called now that Rassie usually hosts? What are those things? What are those?
Alignment camp.
Yeah, those alignment camps, yes. All the players that need to be chosen, have already been sorted within the alignment camps as well. So, and then Ben Jason Dixon, BJD, is out for the remainder of Super Rugby and URC. But I also see that he's also in discussions for his contract renewal. And I see Blue Bulls fans are already trying to say that he should move over to Pretoria. If that team, that Jake White squad is looking very mint at this point. Looking at how Leinster performed yesterday, Jake White's Blue Bulls, seem to be the team that can actually go all the way currently. That's what it looks like. But obviously, you never know. Playoffs footy is a different story. And then the TRC kicked off last week, Thursday, which we saw a few good matches or a few impressive players coming through, the young talent. We'll talk about how important this TRC Under-20 Championship is also good for these youngsters before they go into the World Junior World Cup as well. So Stormers legend Deon Fourie is basically fit and back for one more season, Jade, in Cape Town with the Stormers. What are your thoughts about Deon Fourie? I think, how old is he now? 39, 40? Going into one more season for the Stormers?
He'll be 39 this year, so yeah, it's an odd one.
Jeez. I remember we spoke about some forwards that were still playing this season. One of those props who just retired as well. He was also like in his 40s. They really like them old in Cape Town, huh?
Yeah, and you know what the thing is? We spoke about it a few times on the pod. At the East End in Cape Town. And we just spoke about the amount of schoolboys coming through in top schools in Cape Town. So, but decisions like this, doesn't really make any sense. He's hardly played any rugby this year. He's been injured. Maybe it's time to give him a coaching role, something like that. Instead of taking human extension. But Dobson knows best, He's won the UFC before. We haven't won it since, so let him make those decisions. But yeah, odd for me.
I see Mpumelelo has also just reminded us that it's not a renewal. He's already signed contract last year. So there was an issue in terms of the language of the release clause. Thanks, Booms. And then moving on, Johan Ackerman will reportedly remain employed with SA Rugby to help with the junior structures in the South African rugby system. And then Matthew Proudfoot, former Rugby World Cup winning forwards coach, has been fired by the Leopards Rugby Union. We're not even through the whole season yet, Jade, and already Proudfoot has already been kicked out at Leopards. I don't know what your thoughts on this are.
Yeah, but they're second last. It's only Border Bulldogs below them on the table for Leopards. Expect more from Proudfoot, expect more.
Yeah, he was at Marty's a while back, and then he didn't do well there, and now he's at the Leopards won it under Andre Pretorius. I think Hugh might have also had an interview with Andre Pretorius in one of his pods as well. Andre Pretorius won the whole tournament in his first season or second season, and now
won the B division, Currie B division.
The B, 100%. But at the end of the day, if you won it just last year and now you're looking at being second last, Border being the only team below you, Border is currently copying 100 points per fixture. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Anyway, moving on, let's get things kicked off. Hugh, before we jump on to kicking things off, I see there's a famous journalist from New Zealand who's managed to rattle a few South Africans about stats this past week. What are your thoughts regarding this particular topic?
The day that Ben Smith discovered the Opta Rugby Stats Hub will be a dark day in rugby statisticians' history. Dear. Look, he's been selected for the stats, and look, we know what Ben Smith is about. He's about wrestling South Africans. That's his one and his only motivation in life, and so he's been seeking stats that paints the South Africans in a bad light. Now, don't get me wrong. I have been one of the main proponents of criticising the likes of the Sharks for how terrible they've been all this season. I have been one of the loudest voices for criticising the Stormers and particularly their scrum, which is statistically the worst in the world. So, he's not going to get any argument from me there. However, it is still quite tiresome, especially just the use of stats, starting with the narrative and then finding stats to pick to support that narrative, especially when that's arguing in bad faith, which is what he does. That it just takes the fun out of it, and it makes you not like stats anymore, which for me is a sad time.
No, 100%. It's quite obvious. I think I've had a go at one of the other guys that loves to share a bit of stats as well, but obviously nitpicking the right stats for the right argument, but then obviously neglecting certain things as well that that would form a different perspective, right? We all enjoy a bit of stats here and there. For me personally, I think they're good, but at some point, I just want to see. I just want my eyes to tell me what I need to see. Obviously, stats are good if you are really into the coaching side of things and you're really part of a team and you want stats to kind of improve certain things as well, right? In terms of effort, in terms of game success, defense, meters covered on the park, all these other things. They're very useful. The data is very useful for a lot of coaches out there, and some fans, I'm sure, definitely appreciate the amount of effort and time that guys like you, Hugh, that put into this the effort into this rather. But moving on from Ben Smith back into the Investec Championship. We had one game last night. We have another game in the next 15 minutes kicking off. But for now, we're going to be looking at the Investec Championship. We're going to be looking at Super Rugby. We're going to be looking at the under-20 TRC Championship as well. Maybe highlight a few things that we've seen. But yeah, we've got plenty to discuss regarding what we've seen from Northampton Saints and what we've seen from Leinster at the Aviva, at home. Hugh, kick us off, actually. What are your thoughts? What did you see? What impressed you? What didn't impress you? And then, Jade, we can kick it off then with what you've seen as well. And then we'll start having a look in terms of dissecting how the Saints picked apart the Leinster defence.
Well, I think the thing that, if I start with what didn't impress me, I think the thing that didn't impress me was Leinster's defence and Leinster's kind of attitude in defence. That everyone's going to talk about Sam Prendergast. I'll let other people talk about that. I've got nothing extra or special to add in terms of that conversation. But the one that stuck out for me was for Pollock's try, where there's been a kick, it's been run back into contact. It's kind of like standard kind of thing in the middle of the pitch, and the Leinster line is set, and then Tadhg Furlong, who I don't understand why people say he's in contention for the Lions tour. He hasn't played well in 2 years, in my opinion. He suddenly decides, I'm going to go and stand on the blind side. Now, if you check the stats, Northampton don't attack the blind side. They have 9.9% blind side movement, which is in the bottom 10 for any club in the world at the moment. Northampton don't attack the blind side. But Tadhg Furlong goes, I'm going to go and stand on the blind side. And more than that, I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to point to my teammates and tell them they should all stand on the blind side. Now, the context that you need to know here is the ruck is in and around the 5-metre tram line. So the blind side is pretty bloody short. So he goes over there. He tells Dan Sheehan to push out there. And then there's 2 Leinster players who have made a tackle who are now working their way back to be onside again. They also work back down to the blind side. So now you've got 4 Leinster players standing on the blind side of the ruck in a 5-metre channel, marking 1 Northampton Saint player. Then you've got Porter, who's on the open side of the ruck, kind of the guard or the pillar or whatever you want to call it. He never takes his eyes off the ruck. He never looks up, never scans once, never takes a moment to check, never checks his shoulder, nothing. Eyes fully on the ruck, doesn't deviate his vision. And then he steps in to cover the gap that Furlong's just left. RG Snyman is out. The next guy along, he doesn't realise that there's now a massive gap. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't adjust with the picture now being the way it is. And it's a simple ball for Pollock to go through. He then goes through and he goes around Sam Prendergast too easily. Now, I'm not sure I can 100% say that another player would have stopped Pollock, but I think the visuals would have been better. But that whole kind of scenario just summed up to me a Leinster team that wasn't switched on, that wasn't at the races, wasn't taking it seriously. And it smacked to me of hubris, and the whole game was this. Hubris, and did Leinster even do any prep or any analysis of Northampton? Because it's like they weren't expecting it at all. Like the last 2 games, most of these players have played was when they nilled Glasgow and they nilled Harlequins. So did they just not take this game seriously? They thought, it's English opposition. English Premiership is the Farmers' League. We don't need to worry about these players, this team. And it just came back to bite them. All the other things, turning down the 3, what have you. A lot of people are talking about Tommy Freeman now has booked his place on the Lions tour. I don't want to get carried away with the Hollywood of scoring a hat-trick, because if you look at his tries, he was given the ball in space and he used his gas to finish. They weren't like, oh my God, tries. They were well taken. They were, oh my God, because of the context. But he's an international class winger, and I don't think an international class winger should finish the chances that he got. So I'm not getting giddy about that, although I do think he will go on the Lions tour. So those are the things that stood out to me. Obviously, as well, Finn Smith, the maturity and the game management he's showing at his age is exceptionally impressive. And for me, he is clearly the best English number 10, levels above Marcus Smith as we speak about it today.
Yeah, very solid player. I also thought it was a Freeman and Smith show last night. And I also got a stab to watch it again today to kind of like look and see what what was the difference, between the two sides? And I mean, you've made a very good point there regarding preparation. When you watch Leinster, it doesn't look like the Leinster side that put Warriors to the sword, that put is it Gloucester and Bath? Who did they beat before in the other game? The English side as well, but like they didn't have any points scored against them in those two previous games until the Saints game. I mean, the way Saints played and the way Leinster kicked, like these long kicks, and a lot of teams were kicking back to them, And this time, I think the Saints were like, okay, we'll run it a bit, As soon as the defensive lines come up, then we'll kick the ball back. But if the defensive lines are too slow, then we'll try and find some gaps. If you look at the first try with Finn Smith connecting and kicking the ball to Freeman, just gassing everyone and scoring. And I was like, oh my goodness, the way the Saints are kicking the ball is not the way Leinster were expecting Saints to kick. And a few times, Saints were running the ball inside their own 22 to kind of bring up that backfield, to not have a lot of comfort for Leinster in those back three, to bring up those wingers, to create a bit of space so that when they kick, it's a nice contestable 50-50 ball. And also a few times they wanted to create a bit of confusion or disparity within the defense. So if they're playing from a line out, they'll have somebody taking it up from the first phase in the middle, and then they'll come around the corner and have someone bash it up again, and then they'll bring it back again, And with that, the forwards now are mismatch. Forwards are marking backline players. And if you look at the second try, that's how it came about, right? As well, whereby you had a mismatch where you had all these forwards, big, heavy bodies against the backline players of the Saints, and it was an easy score, right? I mean, I think Saints really, really understood what they needed to do in terms of understanding how to break that rush defense, also
100%.
And also how to physically be up for it. They were really physically up for it at the breakdown. Pollock was a nuisance on the ground, trying to go for every ball, even though at times I was like,
He gave away some daft penalties. I think towards the end of the game as well, his head kind of went a little bit and he got frustrated with the referee. But rather than taking a chill pill, he just started going crazy at ruck time and just gave away more and more penalties.
Yeah, he was very eager, and there were a few marginal pilfers that I saw. I thought, I don't think he should have gotten away with that. But nonetheless, the rub of the green was for the Saints side yesterday. Jade, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you when you spoke about Furlong there. I think French prop that came over with Slimani. I think he had been having a better season than Furlong, actually. And I mean, you just summed it up. I think Furlong, if he's clever, I think it's that time to leave Leinster now. I don't think he's really a candidate for his experience to go on the Lions tour. But the interesting thing about this game is, open guys, if you look at one stat that Lady picked up was 22 entries. And Leinster had double the amount of 22 entries than Northampton Saints in this game, and yet they lost the game. I mean, if you look at your carries, I mean, for me, Leinster had more carries to put more passes together. But in attack, Northampton Saints was getting more post-contact meters, meaning that they were getting passes, rush defense, and hurting and breaking the line. To score 5 tries against Leinster, I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were praising them for not conceding a point in the last 16 and in the quarterfinals, and then the 14 to score 5 tries against them at home, and in Ireland. For me, they deserve the victory. I don't think they'll go on and win it. It might just be that Northern just played the final, before the final, and it will be a walkover in the final, maybe. However, you've got to give them, credit for what they did. I mean, score 5 tries against Leinster. Well-oiled machine, well-defensive system that they did have. They found a way to get around that rush defense. And if you look at it, I'm speaking in post-contact meters. I mean, you look at Northern Saints making 293 post-contact meters from 86 carries. compared to Leinster's 224 post-contact meters from 127 carries. So that just shows, the work that they did off the ball and the work that they did planning and prepping for this game. I don't know what was the reason for Jody Barrett, who arguably is one of the best players in Europe at the moment. Everybody's been saying he's been so good at, praising him. And for game in the semi-final, for him not to play from the bench. I don't know what was the reason. I don't think it was to do with rest, because then they just wouldn't have played him at all. I'm not sure. I mean, if you wanted to play the Irish combination at centre, I mean, you could have pushed Jody to 14, you could play out on the wing, just to have him on the field. I think that's where Cullen really, for me, he lost it there in terms of not playing Jody. I'm not sure what the reason was, because, I mean, big games like this, you want your best players on the field. But yeah, Leinster, another year they're not winning the trophy, another year they choked. More of the critics, more of the doubters, come at them. If they don't win the URC, I mean, surely you've got to start asking questions at Cullen. Is he the man? If you look at who's available in international rugby now as well, you have the likes of maybe a guy like Leon McDonald, floating around in Super Rugby, not really committed. Maybe he would be somebody that you could really look at, coming in at Leinster team. You can look at, there's a lot of other coaches, in Japan who really like that Leinster job, if they want to go international or Irish, But yeah, for me, I just think Leinster, even if they do win the URC, they'll be disappointed with the season, and with that result yesterday. I mean, for losing that game yesterday. This was the one they really, really wanted. This is why they signed Jody Barrett and Erich Snyder. This is why they signed Rico next year, to win these for this competition. They didn't.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, speaking about how Northampton were able to break down the Leinster defence, it was it was a bit old school in that it was just dummy runners, and it was setting traps, because if you know the shooter is going to come, and look, the biggest problem with Irish rugby across the board is you know exactly what every single player on that pitch is going to do in any scenario. If you look at South Africa, or if you look at New Zealand, or if you look at France, there are players in those back lines specifically where if they get the ball, you're thinking, I'm not sure what they're going to do. Not the case with any Irish team. You know exactly what every player is going to do. You could write a book about it. So, and in defence, if you know who the shooter is and you know when they're going to shoot, then you can set traps for it. And this actually is what the Scarlets did last week against Leinster. They set traps for it, and they got someone like Blair Murray in effectively a one-on-one with the shooter and got around him, and then it was try time. And Saints did that as well, and they used some fairly simple dummy runners to just get the Leinster shooter to target the wrong man, and it was try time. And the other little stat about that is 3 of Saints' 5 tries came from kick return, which I think is interesting.
Yes, 100%. That's why I said their kicking game was very effective, because every time they would kick, every time Leinster would kick, they would kick these long kicks. It didn't make sense to me. Like, they'll kick these long kicks, and then you have a slow and passive chase line, right? And then they'll set 2 or 3 phases, and then boom, they're scoring another try, right? And I thought, yeah, man, it was a very good tactic in terms of how Saints really planned this. Jade, you touched on a point about Leo Cullen. I mean, Leinster now have failed to win this competition, I think, since 2018, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, who are the names that come up in Ireland, just Ireland, or Hugh, you can also jump in here. I mean, who are the coaches in Ireland that are available? Or do we bring in Stuart Lancaster back into Leinster?
This is actually a difficult one, because you've got to look at you. Personally, I mean, there's one guy that he did love the job, and I think it would be something like Mike Cat, maybe, and he's not in Ireland, specifically in Ireland, but I mean, he's been a part of the Irish squad for long, and then he left. I think he's part of the Hurticanes coaching squad now. So, I mean, if you offer something like that, the opportunity, people will say, when we want to go the fairy tale story of, maybe looking at bringing Johnny Sexton into the coaching setup. I don't really think that would be ideal for them now. They might need to get somebody, fresh, That's why I think Mike Cat would be the one for me. In Europe, Van Graan, maybe, he's doing a good job in the UK. This like I mentioned, Leon McDonald's one. There's the Lancaster, like you mentioned, but What about the former Irish captain as well? What about Paul or what's his name?
O'Connell.
What about him?
Yeah.
Maybe he's one.
Yeah.
They take over the reins there as well.
Fair call.
So maybe.
But isn't he from Munster?
That's the problem. I don't think you go there then. But
Agent O'Connell.
Exactly.
I'm thinking of somebody that's been in the Irish setup because let's be honest. I mean, Leinster and Ireland has been 80% of the Irish team for the past 5 years or so. So maybe somebody that's been a part of that setup, getting him in, giving them the opportunity, to be a coach. That's what the one that stands out for me is my cat. I think he'll take it, but I don't know. Would Nina fire Cullen if they don't win the URC? What would they do? Would you want another big name coach there? What is the plan? How long is Nina going to stay there? So yeah, let's have a look and see what they're going to do next year. But heads are going to roll. If they're not winning the URC, heads are going to roll.
No, definitely. Heads need to roll. I mean, Leo Cullen has been there for some time now. And I think a change would be good for Leinster because I think the whole island or Irish rugby at this point is going through a transition. They've had a very good run. And at this point, it looks like they need new ideas. They need new coaching systems, new coaching style. Because, I mean, Nesafora left as well, who was very instrumental in getting Ireland rugby to where it is. Joe Schmidt has been very instrumental to getting Irish footy to where it is as well. And now we see that, obviously, Farrell has gone into the Lions. I don't know if he comes back into his Ireland job after that. Hugh, does he? Or...
Yeah, Andy Farrell's back after the Lions, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. He'll be back. But, I mean, at this point, he then also needs to kind of maybe start afresh and start building new systems, new structures, new foundation to kind of develop for another, 3 to 4 years. It's going to take a while before Ireland are back to what we've known them in this past 5 years, to be honest. It's not going to be easy. It's a long road. There's been a lot of lip being thrown around, confident Irish fans over the past couple of years, to be honest. It's going to be a long road for them. But we have to touch on the same Pendergrast effect, Jade. You've liked this player before when we started talking about him. Does he make the Lions tour?
No. Based on yesterday's performance, no. I think he played himself out of the Lions tour, But I mean, for a guy like Andy Farrell, he'll know what to do with him because he picked him and, he backed him to be starting flower for Ireland. So I don't think he's going to sell him short. He might not choose him for the Lions, but there's a good chance that eventually he'll end up on the tour because you do know there's a lot of injuries, that comes in this Lions series. But Andy Farrell will be one that, he'll know what to do. And I mean, come on, guys. There's been a lot of guys that has horror shows at 10, that young kids that came on the scene at that horror show. Yes, he had a bad game yesterday. But I mean, we can't just throw him under the bus after there was that one game yesterday. We can't just say, this kid is not good.
Jade.
He's still very young.
No. Remember against France?
Oh, boy. Yeah. Listen.
It's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's like this monkey on your back. What's that advert from Chicken Licken? There's a growing monkey. So Pendergrast, literally at this point, I mean, he's being shown up in terms of on the defensive side, right? On the attack, yes, he does have glimpses or he does show some promise when he has ball in hand. But a few times he gets caught with the ball in hand, and a few times he's on the ground. I think I posted something during the week about some of the best number 10s in the world are the ones that can be on their feet. The ones that can be on their feet. Sorry if you didn't get.
Bordeaux have just scored an amazing length of field try, by the way. Pete Samu.
Perfect. But yeah, as I was saying, Jade, like all the best 10s need to be on their feet, right?
Yeah.
Going back to my points, I mean, Pendergrast, how can one coach a 10 to become better? Because now he's had all the foundation at youth level. He played for Leinster B, he played for Ireland under 20s. Now it's his second season, I think, with Leinster senior team. And at this point, he's been shown up on defense. Yes, there are some good moments with ball in hand. But, I mean, how can one get this player to be at peak level, and we don't have to have this conversation again about a 10 like Sam Pendergast?
Look, for him, honestly, I mean, Andy Farrell, like I said, Andy Farrell will be the one, that could get the best out of him, that could nurture him and, put his arm around him, because, I mean, Andy Farrell, he's a backline player, he's got experience, and I mean, he's earmarked this kid for years already to take over from Sexton. Yes, I do also believe, and there is strong, arguments from the Munster supporters that, he bypassed, or he got over, getting the picking line ahead of Crawley, unnecessary. Crawley's better fly up, etc., etc. And there's so much hype around him. But this kid has been, it's been earmarked for years to take over from Sexton eventually. There's a lot of shortfalls in his game. He's still young. Like defensively, I mean, he's not up to standard. I mean, he's going to be found defensively the whole time. So he's going to have to be going up, bigger out, and he's going to know, when I get on that field, I'm going to be a target. I'm going to be a target defensively. They're going to have to change the defensive shape sometimes when he plays. Let him defend in the outside channel, maybe. Remember this number of flaps, that all the years were about.
No, Amba as well. At the Lions.
But I mean, what's this guy's name, man? He did it famously for Australia, Stephen Lockett. So that defended, on the outside, because he wasn't that great of a defender. So, all of those things they're going to have to work, but he's going to have to get confidence on defense. He's going to have to get confidence. He's going to have to be going out there again for Leinster, maybe in the URC, getting his confidence there, because I'm telling you now, if Leinster plays against the Stormers or so, those guys are going to run at this channel the whole time. He's going to get even worse. He's going to get, those ball runners coming at him the whole time, every single time. And look at him, they're going to be in his face. So he's going to have to step up and make a step up at 10. Defensively. Attackingly, like you said, he's got to stay on his feet. He does good things, does brilliant things. I like his passing game, got a good, solid kicking game. But eventually, it's now his third year actually playing for Leinster. For the first team, he was in and out of the squad. He's going to have to step up, and get it, and really make the step up. I mean, he's got all the talent and everything. And it's not just used that, he's got a backing of Farrell, so he's got to make the step up. He's got to turn these bad performances into match-winning performances for his franchise, or for his club, and for his country. That's what he's got to start to do, and that's how you put it out behind you. But the problem is, defensively, he's going to have to show some attitude on defense, and he's going to have to be willing to make a tackle, and not, how do they say in Afrikaans, don't grab the nipples, stop.
He's like a Cohen Bosch. Actually, Sam. But yeah, nonetheless. Joano Augustus, Jade, we need to just touch on him as well. When is he getting his opportunity with the Springboks? Because, wow, man, come on.
Oh, Trok is going to have to... It's difficult because, if you're looking at the eights he's available, he might have been a window opportunity for him now. When with Jasper Visser being injured, but I think Jasper Visser's back for the tests. And if you look at last season, the Boks used close to 50 players and he didn't get a mention at all. And Cameron Ramakon, who was absolutely brilliant last year, only played 1 or 2 caps for the Boks last year. So, he's an outstanding number 8, brilliant number 8. And we want him to play more games. So it's difficult. Unfortunately, he's at the back of the line. I think even the Rose. I think even the Rose is ahead of him. So it's quite going to be very, very difficult. But the good thing for him is next year he's playing in the URC. So he'll be reminding Rassi and those guys every week, and the South African public as well, every week of his performances. So let's see next year how he goes. How he goes at it. He could. I don't just think for him it was an opportunity or a chance to change nationalities and maybe stay in England and represent England. Because England's also got storming and good losing at the moment. So. Yeah, I think for him next year will be getting into the UFC, performing, getting on the lip of the South African public on social media, because I think he's relatively been a forgotten man in South African rugby.
True. He has been the forgotten man, indeed. Before we jump into Super Rugby, Hugh, you are the Lions coach. You're drawing up a list of 40 players. What's the first name on your sheet? Doesn't matter what position. What's the first name that comes up when we go, okay, Lions team, let's go?
The first name that you put down, or the only name that you don't even think twice about in the Lions 15 at the moment, is Maro Itoje.
Boom. Drops mic. Jade, who's the first name for you?
The first name is your captain. And my first name I put out would be my captain, Maro Itoje.
Oh, we're no longer looking at Doris anymore.
No. Doris was never my choice option. Maro Itoje would be my Lions captain. To be his third Lions tour. He's getting back to his best. I mean, he's been doing well, captaining an English team. Really all of the challenge and everything going on there. I think he's the man, really, go ahead to drive this Lions team forward, I think he's my captain. And Maro Itoje, the first name on the sheet.
Hey, Hugh, your thoughts on this captaincy?
There's a narrative building around Doris. He is the captain of teams that fall short. Over the last 2 or 3 seasons, whether it's Ireland or whether it's Leinster, have been presented with multiple opportunities to make history-making, groundbreaking, never done before rugby history. And every single time they've failed.
Oof.
It's a pattern, and it doesn't help you in your cause to become Lions captain.
Oof. Damn.
But you, quick question. Quick question. Sorry, school for jumping in here. And I know the answer, and the answer is yes. Would you rather select Toby Partau in a Lions jersey, playing good rugby, than a Kellen Doris in a Lions jersey? Which one would you select?
I mean, I would, because I'm a Wales fan, and I think that Taulupe Faletau is one of the greatest rugby players the Northern Hemisphere has ever seen. I think you can get one amazing test out of Taulupe Faletau. I don't think he can play 3 tests back to back to back.
There it is, Jade. There it is. Moving on to the Superior Rugby League. Down Under, Jade, your favorite. Blues are back on track. There's a possibility of making playoffs, which is all good. But we're going to start off with the Drua beating the Reds. What a freaking game, Hugh. Your number 1 team in Super Rugby won on Friday. Your second team won this morning against the Highlanders with Ardie Savea once again showing how classy he is. I think he is the only player in the world who can play for a weaker side and still perform like he does against stronger opponents, right? He doesn't need any support, it seems. He can be the whole Moana team from 1 to 15 by himself. Talk to me.
What we seem to be seeing in Super Rugby is that whereas in most leagues you have a couple of really good teams at the top going for the title, 2 or 3, or just 1 in England, then you have 1 or 2 really bad teams at the bottom, and then a very tight middle. What we seem to have in Super Rugby is quite a spread where there isn't maybe a tight middle, but the bottom teams are more competitive than the bottom teams in other leagues. The weakest teams in Super Rugby are stronger than the weakest teams in other leagues, which is what we see with the likes of the Drua winning in Fiji. Nobody wants to go to Fiji. You don't want to go and play against the Drua in Fiji.
Yep.
You're going to have a bad time. So that's what's interesting about it. Is good. Look, it wasn't looking at the highlights, looking at the scoreboard, it wasn't a serious game particularly. Look, and I'll let other people talk about the Highlanders. Oh my God, a basket case of a rugby team. But I'm backing Moana to get into the playoffs this year. They've got the momentum, they've got the feel-good factor, they're coached well, they're playing with confidence, and they got Ardie Savea. Moana for the title.
Jade, sorry, I was on mute. My bad. Jade, your thoughts on the Drua?
No, look, I mean, we all went through it. We all said it before when what happened to the Drua this year, and the amount of players they lost. And obviously, they didn't have a good prep, having a new coach there with Glenn Jackson taking over as the coach, compared to last year where they made the last 2 years, they made the top 8 or the quarterfinals. So they're not out of it. If they win all of their games, they throw their name back into the hat, to make top 6. But it's going to be very, very difficult for them because they got to do it again against the Blues this weekend. The Blues hasn't been the best, but that's the Drua. They'll have one good performance like that, and next week they fade off. So I don't think they'll make it. but there is promising signs, and a few guys, they've played the first year of Super Rugby this year, as it is every year with the Fijian team. Guys come on the scene that they just, take like a duck to water, just they rip it apart, and then the next year or so, they go flat, or they move over to France, or move over to to Europe or somewhere there. So that's the challenge for them. But there is a few, young guys that came through this year that's been putting their hand up. Moana for me, it's going to be all down to that game in 2 weeks' time when they play the Blues in Albany. That's the big one, because they're going to have to win that game to make the top six. I mean, they've been playing brilliant rugby this year. They've been showing heart. There's everybody. I think there's not a Pacific Islander that doesn't want to be a part of that franchise now. They've turned it into a franchise that's been, the guys that just got together to play. It's been rather look like a five-a-side, social team, gone over to a team now that looks like, everybody want to be a part of this team, and they're showing so much heart and so much, what do they call it in New Zealand? They call it a lot of mana. They're showing that there, and it's just looking good. They're settled now in Albany as well. That's their home ground. So for me, I think Moana Pacifica, the game against the Blues, that would be the big game. Whether they'll win it, I'm not sure, because the last time they played the Blues actually, won them relatively, convincingly. But yeah, let's see in 2 weeks' time, because I don't think the Pauls or the Waratahs, those two are the other Australian teams, I don't think they'll make it. The Hurricanes, they turned the corner, they look like playing good rugby again. I think they'll make it. But the last spot in the top six will be between the Blues and Moana Pacifica, and it depends on that game.
Wow, imagine defending champions are battling for sixth spot, basically. But yeah, moving on to the Hurricanes, as you've just mentioned, they look like a team that's really finding good form. Past 2 weeks, winning away in Canberra, now winning at home against the number one team. But Jade, looking at those Hurricanes, I'm saying 9-13, or skip the 11. 9-13, 9, 10, 12, 13. Make them all Blacks. What are your thoughts?
Look, Ruben Lau's been playing good rugby. He's been awesome at 10. I had this conversation with Wanda a few weeks ago, and I said that the problem with the Canes is Weber that's playing 10 was too flat. He wasn't really taking the ball to the line. He wasn't really commanding at 10. He put Roygard under pressure, because Roygard had to be really the playmaker in the team at 9, and we've seen Roygard being much, much better now that you have Ruben Lau playing there now, at 10. So, for me, that's been the big change. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when you do get Eric Godfrey back. Will they move Lau for 15, or what will they do? But the kid that's playing 15 now, I think it's Walken. He's been a fine for them in 15. He's been attacking, he's been positive the whole time, and they for me, what I like on this structure and their attacking shape is so well balanced, and they're all familiar about it. We've seen Valen Sullivan yesterday coming on at right wing, and he scored 4 tries yesterday. He's actually outside centre and inside centre, just adjusting to the wing. People say the wing has to finish, but you still got to get in those positions. But I do agree with you. I do agree. I think the guy like Riley Higgins, he's going to be an All Black. It's not a matter of, if, it's a matter of when. Billy Proctor's been playing good rugby again, although I want to see do more work in close quarters or so. A lot of the time his busting and stuff has been on the tram lines or so, So I'm not sure if Rice is going to allow that game blank. That's more what they do at the Canes. We've seen it as well with Valen Sullivan when he's played 13. The Canes and Corey Jane is the backline coach and the attack coach. He really tries to get, the 13 or so in the tram lines, to get that offload and to play the ball inside, or, to finish from there. So that's been really a game plan from the Canes perspective. I'm not sure if Rice is going to do that. I'm not sure if that's what he does. But yeah, the Canes for me, they look solid. They've got a good bench. If you're going to bring on guys like Tossie and Rakiti Stones, those two big props from the bench, that makes a big, big difference. They have Brad Shield as well that they bring on from the bench. So I think that for me, they can go on. I don't know if they'll win it. For me, I still think the team is frustrated, but the Canes have kicked on, especially with Ruben Love at 10 now, Scoop. I think you made the right call there. He's really putting his hand up for selection at 10, not just at 15.
Yeah, 100%. Hugh, I've got one for you. Last week we heard Stephen Donald talking about weaker rugby in Europe, etc., etc. And we heard Goldie or Jeff Wilson, if you prefer, talking about Jordy Barrett having to play play his way into the All Black, like throwing him at NPC level to make his way back into the All Black side. I mean, looking at what you saw yesterday, there's Billy Proctor, there's Riley Higgins, there's a very formidable 12-13 combo at Hurricanes. I mean, Jordy Barrett, when he comes back, he goes back into the Hurricanes. Do you see a spot for him in that lineup?
Yes, he's clearly the best. I've always been a Jordy Barrett truther, and to me, he's clearly one of, if not the best, All Black. And I've got absolutely no doubt that when he comes back in, he will start for the Hurricanes and he will start for the All Blacks.
Not mincing your words, Jay. Do you also think the same thing?
Yeah, Jordy Barrett started well. He started well. I think he's one of the vice captains. I think him and Ari Savia is one of the vice captains. And Tyson made the decision last year, so he's a senior player as well. So he starts well. Other guys can wait. I think the main conversation there, in terms of getting a guy to go back to play NPC was Leinster and Luku, where hasn't been contracted when he went by New Zealand Rugby, whereas Jordy took a sabbatical, so he's allowed to come straight back into the All Blacks, whereas Leinster and Luku has to play in the NPC before he's eligible for selection. So that's a difference between the two.
Interesting. And your thoughts on the Chiefs this past weekend? I mean, obviously they struggled against the Canes. They had a good actually, they were all right in that first half. They didn't look like the Chiefs that we've known. And Josh Jacob, for me, Jade, this was the game for me where he needed to step up. He needed to make that transition into a formidable 10 and make that number 10 jersey at the Chiefs belong to him. I mean, what are your thoughts? Because they really needed a person to put them on the front foot, and which I think Ruben Love did very well with the Canes. He did it very well against the Brumbies last week. He did it again against the Chiefs this week. He's in good nick at that number 10 jersey. But Josh Jacob has been good until this game yesterday.
Yeah, I know he didn't have the best of games yesterday, and the same can be said about Curtis Rutten as well. First off, it was okay. Josh Jacob wasn't really that special. But I really thought, I rate him. I mean, there's been games for the Chiefs where he started at 10 and he's been brilliant. But D-Mac will always get the shine. However, yesterday he didn't have the best of games. I think he really didn't, put real pressure on D-Mac when D-Mac does come back, to start at 10. For me, the Chiefs yesterday, I think, is again, the bench just didn't work well. They just didn't get the impact from the bench that they normally got. I think when you took up guys like Josh Lord, he has his critics, but he had a decent game at line-up time. When you took up him, Bradley Slater, props, when they went off and bench came on, they didn't really have that impact. And you really think that the bench would change because they went to the 6-2 split, and even had a guy like by the name of Wallace Fatigue on the bench, so you thought that would be the change for them. But the way the Canes came back into the game, I don't think the bench or the Chiefs will adjust and stick, to really ride that momentum and take a step forward. So for me, the Chiefs, there's something they're going to have to work on. They're going to have to be careful because they play the Crusaders on the weekend. If they lose against the Crusaders on the weekend, they throw away that number 2 spot to the Brumbies, basically. And you don't want to go to Canada for the semi-final. It's difficult to go there, You rather want to have a home final or home semi-final in the top 2. So today is really, really a big game this weekend against the Crusaders. Chiefs must win if they really want to keep their hopes of top 2 or top. But if they do lose, you can see the Brumbies overtaking them in that second spot.
Yeah, fair enough. Hugh, your final thoughts? Who do you see going into the finals of the Investec Championship between? It's either UBB or Toulouse. I think UBB just scored as well now, right?
Yeah, Louis Bielbi-Ray has now scored in something like 10 or 11 games in a row. Something like that.
Massive.
Yeah. The hottest try-scoring form of anyone in the world currently. Look, it's a tense game. And I'm not going to hide the fact that I want UBB to win.
All right. Fair enough.
I worry that Toulouse is going to have too much in the pack. UBB's pack don't convince me and never have, whereas Toulouse is very much too. So I worry that Toulouse are going to have too much. I would love it if UBB do it.
Yeah, maybe the game will be, we'll probably turn it into its head around the 60th, 70th minute. Then if UBB don't have the manpower to handle it. Jane, who do you see going into that final to face the Saints in Cardiff?
I like you say that, like UBB to make the final. I think whoever wins the game wins this competition. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, Toulouse knows how doing it. But I mean, UBB is a team that, has knocked Toulouse a few times and have gotten hiding a few times against Toulouse. But let's see what happens. I mean, I think all of a sudden, this is gone now. That Leinster's out. I think we're just watching all neutrals now. We don't really have a team or a team that really want to lose or we don't want to win. As South Africans, really don't want Leinster to win. But yeah, I think for us, we're all neutrals, but I'd love UBB to win.
Anyway, that brings us to an end, guys, of this segment. We still have a lot of rugby to watch. We at least about just under 60 minutes, at least, of this game. There's about 15 minutes left of the first half. It looks evenly balanced at 15-11. With 25 minutes gone so far, and a lot of scrappy plays around the breakdown as well. It's pretty much unstructured, but it's typical French top 14 footy. Enjoy, guys. Have a good Sunday, and we'll see you guys on the timeline. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.